Hello, lovely soul, and welcome to One. Let's talk. Today's episode is dedicated to all you beautiful women out there. Women or womb-having beings, this one's for you. Now, men or men-identifying souls are more than welcome to listen to this episode. But this one's for us. How would you feel if I told you that blood is sacred? Your blood is sacred. See, my relationship with blood hasn't been all that great. In fact, I used to cringe at the sight of blood. As somebody who comes from a medical background, it was part of the curriculum for me to graduate from university to conduct experiments. And I say this with a heavy heart. I really do. But I used to experiment with mice. Yes, I know. But it was part of the program, and I had to do it. I obviously did have a choice in the matter. It was either mice or flies, and I chose mice because their DNA is somewhat similar to ours. So it was part of the program for me to experiment on mice, and I was working at the time on diabetes and depression and nerve endings, trying to find the connection between the three, because most diabetic patients are depressed. That's what I found in my studies. And depressed people, if they don't take care of themselves, can become diabetic somewhere down the line. So it is a two-way street. And that did affect their nerve endings, because you know that some people that have high glucose levels and they're extremely diabetic, they may undergo amputations at some point. So there is a connection there. So I just wanted to see if I can find some markers, some warning signs for the body that will give us the heads up if any injuries were to happen to the nerves. So I had to dissect mice. And I remember this one time, oh my goodness, I was, to do this, it's a procedure. You need to anesthetize the mice first, and then, kill them. You open up their bodies, you extract all these different organs. And for me personally, since I come from a neuroscience background, I had to crack open the skulls and extract the brain and make sure that it's intact so that it doesn't damage any of the key centers that I wanted to test and look at. So it's a process. And I remember I have the scissors in my hand and the blade in another. And the sight of blood, my God, it disturbed me so much that I had to just drop everything and go to the bathroom and try to regulate myself a little bit to shake it off. And it was very, very disturbing for me. I felt wrong, I felt disgusted, and I was grossed out by the blood that I saw. And not just that, it's even more so when it comes to my own blood. So I used to dread my period. For me, it was such a painful experience, and dare I say, an unnecessary experience. At the time, I used to think this way. I didn't understand it. I was very disconnected from my body, and I just wanted my cycle to be over as soon as possible. So I get it. Which is why today I'm very much called to talk about our moon cycles, an experience that all women, most women, let's say the majority of women, are blessed with. Now, before I go into depth about this, I just want to say, if you're a woman listening to this and you have irregular periods or you don't get periods, it's okay. Your journey is also blessed. You also share the gifts of womanhood. And you yourself, you are no less blessed, okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of. But that's a whole different conversation. It's not for this episode. But I just wanted to say that. Let's start at the very beginning. Let me tell you why blood is so powerful. Everything in the world has a meaning. Everything symbolizes something. And blood is no different. It also has a meaning. To me, blood is a symbol of life. So to lose blood is to lose life. And to give blood is to give life. When you're donating blood, that's exactly what you're saying. You are giving life to somebody. So it comes as no surprise then that blood has played an important part in many religious ceremonies, right? many of these religious, let's say, practices or ceremonies, they used to consider blood a vehicle for the soul. Just think of all the blood rituals and the sacrifices that were done on the altars of gods, right? I mean, wow. Now, some people would say that this was a big act of devotion, a huge mark of respect. It's like they're saying to the gods, you have gifted us with this gift of life. You've given us life, and we want to pay it back to you. We want to express our gratitude to you by, sacrificing these animals or whatever it is that they're sacrificing for the gods. Some would say that these ceremonies or these rituals came from fear. The motive behind it was fear, that they were submitting basically to the gods out of fear. Who's to say that that's not the case? But the point is that blood is a very powerful and precious thing. In reality, this blood or this fluid, we have 4 main body fluids, by the way: sweat, urine, blood, and saliva. So blood is one of them. This fluid or blood that circulates in our system is a materialization of the universal fluid that circulates throughout all of creation. I say this pretty much in most episodes. I'm a firm believer of as above, so below, as within, so without. So just like you have this universal fluid that nourishes the cosmic organism or the cosmos, blood nourishes the individual organism or the individual. Even the components of blood are so interesting to look at because you have red blood cells and white blood cells. I mean, to me, these two represent the masculine and the feminine energies. Once again, we see these 2 great principles of creation coexisting in blood. Now, the particles of blood, they're very much alive. This is the juicy bit. Blood is a vital source of life. I would even, take it to the extreme and say that blood is a living fluid. I don't know how else to put it, but that sounds just about right to me. That blood is a living fluid. That's why it is served as food for invisible entities. Now, I don't mean to scare you. There's no reason to be afraid here. But I'm just saying that blood is usually used, or can be used, I should say, to invoke either light entities or dark entities. This is what these sacrifices or these practices or, rituals were all about. At least one of the reasons for their existence was that they used blood to call upon these entities, whether light entities, luminous beings, or dark entities. This is what white and black magicians or sorcerers used to do in their rituals. Now, to my knowledge, white magicians or sorcerers, let's say, never sacrifice living beings, not even animals. They don't do that. Even the way that they, deal with this energy is different. Their intentions are different. But that's neither here nor there. Why am I saying all this? Do you see how powerful of a thing blood is? This is why in ancient times, a woman's cycle was honored. It was celebrated. Her bleeding was ritualized. I mean, imagine all these women of different backgrounds, different races, different ethnicities, different ages. They used to come together in sacred circles and moon lodges. They used to perform these ceremonies and rituals to harness this beautiful energy, this powerful energy, to use it. Wow. So the question becomes, why is the subject of menstruation still so taboo? I mean, this beautiful gift, this beautiful experience that holds within it the powers of rebirth and rest and purification and creativity. Why is it replaced with shame and uncleanliness? Why is it that women all over the world, and I used to be one of them, we see our periods as a hassle or a burden or even a curse? Well, here's the obvious answer. I'm sure you know it. The patriarchy. Because we live in a patriarchal society. back in those days, so in ancient times, they were threatened by the magic and the power that these women had, that these women were able to use. And this power magnified tenfold when they came together. We know this, that if you have two or more people focusing on the same intention, the energy amplifies, it just intensifies. Yeah, it becomes more powerful, gets stronger. And this is why these women used to do these things in groups together. Imagine something that is this sacred and divine is now stigmatized, and it's seen as taboo. It's seen as a curse. But I'm happy to see that the divine feminine is waking. Even the Kundalini, look at this, the Kundalini, this serpent that sits at the base of your spine, symbolically speaking, is a she. And I'm seeing women and just people all over the world having their Kundalini awakening experiences. And it's so beautiful because she is rising. In every sense of the word, she is rising. Women are like phoenixes every single month. They rise from the ashes. They are reborn from the burning flames. And it's just so beautiful to see. So I'm happy to see that there are so many conscious goddesses and so many conscious, beautiful women all over the world. They're reconnecting with their moon cycles. They are reconnecting with their blood. They're honoring this gift. They are reclaiming their power. Even this was very recent for me, by the way. Just this year, I started to have a beautiful relationship with my cycle. And I'm here for it, I love it. So much power in this. So, what is our connection to the moon? Why do we call this a moon cycle? Have you ever thought of it? I believe, yet again I will say this, everything that happens in the cosmos and the skies, the planets, the stars, the moon, the sun, they have an influence on us. We are not living in a vacuum. Everything is connected. I know that a lot of people don't believe in astrology. They think it's pseudoscience or it's, crazy talk. I get that. That's okay. But personally for me, I believe that everything is connected. And as long as we have a physical body, we are not exempt from the influences of the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars. We call it a moon cycle because our menstrual cycle is said to be in sync with the moon. The sun represents the masculine and the moon represents the feminine. And together they create harmony, they create cosmic balance. Now check out the similarities here. Just look at this, it's so cool. The moon, or the moon cycle, or a lunar cycle, basically lasts for about 29 days, which is about the same time, or it's the average time it takes for a woman to complete a whole cycle. For some women, it's 26 days, so their cycle is about 26 days, or it could be a 33-day cycle. So it can fluctuate based on different factors. Diet, stress, exercise, light exposure, sunlight exposure, so many different factors come into play here. But each cycle is still beautiful and it is sacred. And every cycle is still connected to the moon, to the different stages or phases of the moon. Now, typically, we have 4 different phases, if you think about it. The moon has 4 different phases. Now, if you do your own research, you may find that some people explain it as 8 different phases. Yeah, they dissect it even more. But I just want to keep it simple and say that, for the most part, the moon has 4 different phases. So we have a new moon. New moons always signify beginnings. Then we have a waxing moon. What does waxing mean? Waxing is basically this transitioning of the moon into a full moon. So it's when the moon is getting, so to speak, bigger in size. So it's becoming more illuminated in the sky. Now, in reality, the moon is not, shrinking or growing in size. The moon stays the same, but based on its relative position to the sun and the earth, we see it that way. So when I say waxing moon, I mean that the moon is just transitioning into a full moon. The third phase of the moon is a full moon, And the fourth phase is a waning moon. It's when the moon is going back to being a new moon, so going back to the start. Can you imagine this with me? It's like a circle. New moon, waxing moon, full moon, waning moon, and then the cycle repeats itself. Just like we have these 4 different phases of the moon, we have 4 different types of moon cycles. As if the subject of menstruation wasn't complicated enough, let's make it even more complicated and say that we have 4 different moon cycle types out there. If you've heard of these words, the red moon cycle, white moon cycle, the pink moon cycle, and the purple moon cycle, this is what I'm talking about. Each of these cycles symbolizes something, and you have different feminine archetypes attached to each one. You have the wise woman, you have the teacher, the healer, you have the mother, and each one of these cycles has something to teach. So we can learn something from each of these. Now, I will just leave it at that. I will not go into depth about this part, because I don't want to overcomplicate things. But in future episodes, I will definitely go into detail about each of these cycles. So, these moon cycles, like I said, the 4 types that I mentioned, are the different ways a woman's cycle flows with the moon. What do I mean by that? Let me simplify. We usually take bleeding as a reference point. To give examples, the woman who bleeds around a new moon is said to be on a white moon cycle. Women who bleed around a full moon are on a red moon cycle. Those who get their periods, let's say during the waxing phase of the moon, are on a pink moon cycle. And women who bleed during the waning phase of the moon are on a purple moon cycle. So don't concern yourself with this now. Just know that each cycle shares its own unique set of gifts, has its own unique purpose, and every woman will experience even these cycles differently. So not all women who are on a white moon cycle will experience the white moon cycle the same way. Not all women who are, let's say, on a red moon cycle will experience that the same way. So it is very unique and personal to each woman. Now, regardless of that, there is a general pattern that I've noticed that applies to every moon cycle and every moon cycle type. If you've noticed, and I'm sure you have, there is a time when we are so energetic. We're so full of life during the month. Like, we're so optimistic. We are so full of this energy, and we're just, untouchable, unbeatable, unshakable at this time. Then we have a time when we ovulate. This is when we're most fertile. So if you're a woman listening to this and you're planning on being a mom, then this is the best time for you to get pregnant, when you're ovulating. And then you will have a time, we have a time basically, when we feel a dip in our energy levels. So to satisfy my scientific mind, if I'm to draw a graph for you, imagine this with me. There's an increase, a peak, and then a decrease. This is a general pattern that always takes place in any given cycle for any woman. Now, the increase is what I will refer to as stage 1. So when I say stage 1, I'm talking about this increase. In biology, we call this the follicular phase or pre-ovulation, because it's the phase that precedes ovulation, and it usually lasts for about 14 days. Stage 1 is a very energetic, productive, and creative phase. Now, the peak is when we have ovulation. Usually happens around the 14th day of the cycle. That's an estimation. It doesn't have to be exact. Some women would experience it around the 12th day or the 13th day of the cycle. And for others, it can happen around the 15th day. Like I said, so many factors decide this, and it can fluctuate. And then you have the decline. This is what I will refer to as stage 2. In biology, this is known as the luteal phase or post-ovulation. It's the phase that comes after ovulation. And again, It lasts for about 14 days. And this phase, stage 2, is when we have low levels of energy. So let me go over this one more time. Increase, peak, decrease. That's the general pattern. Or high energy, peak, low energy. Or pre-ovulation, ovulation, post-ovulation. Follicular, peak, luteal. So many different variations, but they're all saying the same thing because this pattern represents death and rebirth. This is why women every single month, symbolically speaking, and actually this is what's happening in our inner world, within our inner worlds, is that we are dying a million deaths and we are being reborn again and again and again. And we get to experience this every single month. So let me talk about the stages. Stage 1, like I said, is a very creative, productive, energetic phase. This is when we feel that we are untouchable. We're just optimistic, full of life. We're charging at life with full force. We have our creative juices flowing. We are flowing with all of life. And for me personally, this is when I feel like I can have the most focus when it comes to my manifestations. Like I'm just laser focused on what it is that I want. And I get my manifestations left and right because I'm super focused. I'm determined. I'm optimistic. I'm playful. This is that time of the month. This is stage 1. The way that I describe it, for me, stage 1 is the build-up. It's almost like you're building yourself. You are collecting all these different materials, these energies that you're playing with, these different experiences, these different thought patterns or emotions. You're gathering elements basically from life and you're building yourself. You're building your life. Yeah, you're putting together your vision. So it's a constructive phase, and I call it the build-up. Now, stage 2. Oh my goodness, stage 2 is basically when all hell breaks loose. I'd get it if you're a woman listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what comes over me. It almost feels like nothing is working out for me. I'm so depressed. I just want to emotionally eat. I'm so angry all the time. I'm so irritable. Like I get triggered very easily. I want to just lash out at my boyfriend or my spouse, my partner, my lover. You know, all of these things. I get it. Trust me, I get it. What I experience is that my cravings, I sometimes if I don't get things my way, I just want to emotionally eat. Like I want to get that immediate, instant gratification through food. This is something that I experience. And there's absolutely those inevitable days where I just want to, cry. I want to be in bed and just sulk. There's no better way to put it. So I get it. To me, this is a phase of release. This is a very interesting, beautiful part of the cycle because this is when it's time for us to let go of everything that is no longer serving us. All the things that are no longer benefiting us in any way, this is the time for us to let go of those things. That's why I call it the release. It is only painful and it's only difficult and challenging most times because there are things that we've held on to, that we're holding on to, that we don't need to anymore. They served us in the past. They played their part. They did what they had to do, to keep us going, to help us survive. But that's it. Their purpose is over with. And the fact that we experience pain all the time is because we're holding on to something that has expired a long time ago. It almost feels like you have 50,000 tons wrapped around your feet, your entire body. You have all these bricks you're carrying around with you. Why? There's no need. It's time to lay those bricks down and to just release. So stage 2 is an opportunity for us to look at all the things that are not working in our lives anymore. All the thought patterns, let's say, that we've held on to, the habits that no longer serve us. It's an opportunity to look at those things objectively and to make a decision. What is no longer serving us? What still has power over us that has overstayed its welcome, that it's time for us to let go of? This is a time when most women, they don't want to sit with this discomfort. They don't want to sit with this pain because it's too much. It's very overwhelming. It just comes at you like bullets. And you're like, okay, I don't want to deal with this. And this is when we usually go for distractions. Most women do. Emotional eating. Like I said, this was my go-to for not wanting to sit and deal with my emotions. There's casual sex and meaningless sex for some women. There's playing video games or watching Netflix or working. Some women overwork themselves, or they just throw themselves in work, or exercising. Now, these distractions are not quote unquote good or bad, but it's the intention or the energy behind it. It's important that you ask yourself, am I trying to run away from something when I do these things? Am I trying to avoid something? So that's important. So stage 2 is a very introspective phase. And I call it the release because this is where we look at everything that's happening within us and we give ourselves permission to let go. If you don't know where to start, I can just give you a formula that works all the time. Start with your thoughts. Just take a look at your thoughts. What kinds of thoughts do you keep thinking over and over in your mind? If you have a journal, you can just write these down. What are the thoughts that you keep having in your mind? Do they empower you? Are they serving you? Are they helping you in any way? Or are they disempowering you? They're taking away your power. Second, take a look at your habits. Are these habits making you feel good? Do you feel good when you do these things? Do they nourish you? Heart, mind, body, and soul? Or do they drain you? They deplete you? What about your emotions? Also take a look at those. What is this emotion trying to tell you? Is this an old feeling or a new feeling? Do you experience this feeling every single month? Does it continuously just show up for you every single month? Do you think it's time for you to let go of this feeling? So these are some things that you can think about, you can introspect. And remember, it's a cycle, Take Mother Nature, for instance. She is the best example of this. She is constantly changing. She's constantly shifting and going through these transitions. You have these seasonal changes, right? You have climate changes. You have all kinds of changes happening in nature. But do you see Mother Nature condemning herself for it? Criticizing herself for it? No, because she's embracing all of these different phases, all of these different changes because they're all beautiful. Each phase just has a purpose, a unique expression, a unique message. So, if you don't feel energetic throughout the whole month, please know that that is not your design. You're a cyclical being, especially that you're a woman, if you're a woman. Women are cyclical beings. We are supposed to have this increase, peak, decrease pattern in a cyclical fashion. This is just how we're designed. Don't try to expect everything to be linear in life. It doesn't work that way. Don't even try to, get yourself to be monotonous, rhythmic. No, it doesn't work that way. You're supposed to be all over the place, have this up and down, ebb and flow. This is just your design. The sooner you embrace this, the easier everything becomes. If I'm being honest with you, I am in my luteal phase as I'm recording this, and I needed to hear this message just as much as I was willing to share it with you. So I hope that you got some value out of this. And I hope that you will start to have a different kind of relationship with yourself, different kind of relationship with your moon cycle, with your blood, because it is sacred. Now, if you need my help, you need my guidance in anything, if you want to release some blocks that you have, some thought patterns or anything else for that matter, then I'm offering coaching right now, 3 different types. Email coaching. I love this package because you get to have an unlimited number of emails with me for a month. There's phone calls if you want a more interactive session with me. So you can have phone calls with me once a week or twice a week, or just even a singular session. That's also an option. That's something new that I just opened up. So there is availability right now for these things. The links are in the description box below. And if you have questions about any of that, again, you can send me an email. I'm going to put that in the description box as well. Everything that I talk about here on this channel basically comes from my perception of things, okay? This is how I see the world. They come from my personal experience, from the work that I've done with myself and with other people, with clients. If a thought doesn't resonate with you, then it is not your message. And if it does, then accept it. Thank you for listening and for holding space. Women, take a minute today to just shower yourself with all kinds of affection and love because you are beautiful. Remember, you are in it, in, let's say, stage 2 or this chaotic phase, but you've already won. Till next time.